Today, we are talking all about 10 tactical account-based marketing plays to win more customers, right? So account-based marketing, if you've heard of the phrase, it's a big buzzword in the B2B marketing circles. And there's the whole concept and theory of account-based marketing, what you're supposed to do, right? You're supposed to define your target addressable market, and then you're supposed to find your target serviceable customers from that. And then you're supposed to break those out into tiers based on account quality and value, right? And then you're supposed to devise strategies for each of these. And that's all well and good. And those are very important activities to do. And we certainly recommend doing them. However, if you're like most marketers right now, you got to build pipeline. You got to take some actions and win some customers. So this session is all about how to do that. So how do we actually go after accounts and do things in a tactical way that'll bring in customers in the short term and help build our pipeline by focusing on the accounts that are really valuable to us. So I'm going to fire up my old screen share here. I'm Jarrett Fleagle, by the way. I'm Director of Marketing at WebMechanix. I'm joined by Josh Muskin, my colleague and VP of Sales and Marketing here at WebMechanix. And he's going to be chiming in and manning the chat as we go. So I'm going to fire up my slideshow here. Just let me know if you guys can see my screen here. Let me know if that works for y'all.
Good for me.
All right, let's dive in. So yeah, let's get nitty gritty. Let's talk about 10 tactical plays. So first play, and this is a great one to really make sure you're going after the right opportunities that are going to bring value and a lot of pipeline is customer lookalikes, right? So essentially what you want to do with this play is first and foremost, step back and look at your customers and identify who are my best customers. And however you define that, it could be they've stayed with you for a certain amount of time, so they have a certain lifetime value. Maybe it's an annual contract value, a certain amount that they pay. Maybe there's also a qualitative factor that you enjoy working with them. Maybe they evangelize your company. Whatever those factors are, you want to look at that and identify who those customers are in your customer set. And you'll want to understand what they have in common, right? So as you look at those customers, it could be that they fit within a certain employee size bandwidth. They could be a certain revenue, right? They could have a certain industry in common, or there could be more nuanced factors that they all share, right? So really take a look at those customers and try to understand what's common between them. And once you've identified those traits, you could use those traits to build a list of lookalike companies. So say my list is, we do really well with B2B SaaS startups that are Series B and Series C that are located in the United States, and they have 5 or more salespeople on their team, right? Perfect. Boom. You can take those criteria, jump into tools like LinkedIn Sales Navigator, tools like Zoom Info or Sales Intel, and start building lists and then gathering data for those lists to identify who are those target accounts and start gathering both intelligence and contact data on those accounts, right? So that'll allow you to then start to reach out to those companies and start to explore like what angles you can use. But what we really recommend you do is look at the customers that are your best customers and build case studies around them. So if I'm a business decision maker, a CEO, a CMO, whatever that role is you're looking to market to, I want to know the metrics, and I want to know a high level of how you did it, right? Like what differentiates you or makes you unique in those situations, right? If you can tell those stories with your best customers at the helm and making those customers the heroes of that story, then you'll have the asset basically that you can use to then relay that message to those future customers, right? So you can use that as the foundation for ads that you send out via LinkedIn and other channels. You can use that for emails that you send, whether it be cold email or opted in people on your list, and any content that you create and distribute and send out to this list as well. So by customer lookalikes, it's a great foundational way to get started and identify like who are our best customers today, and extrapolate that to who your best customers will be tomorrow and build a path to get those customers. All right, now this second play is the sales list sync up. So if you have a sales team and they're actively calling on opportunities, they may need to have a list of target or named accounts, right? So these are accounts that are high quality accounts that you want to go after that are serviceable by your company, right? If you're not already, what a huge opportunity is to take that same list of accounts that your sales team is actively prospecting into and upload it as a matched audience to your ads platforms, especially on LinkedIn, and start running ads to that audience, right? So you can essentially identify who are the people we're already targeting, we're already calling into, we're already prospecting, that we already want to win as customers, and then basically create an audience of those companies and or contacts, and you can literally upload them via a matched audience feature in LinkedIn and just start sending them ads. And the content of those ads can be valuable persuasive content. So essentially think of it as information that kind of helps set the buying criteria for a company like yours. First and foremost, you want to educate them on the problem and why it's a problem that they need to address, right? Because they may not even be aware that the problem you solve is a problem that they're having, right? Once they have that problem awareness, then you want to educate them on the solution, right? And how ultimately how your technology can be the bridge to get them from where they are today to where they want to be, right? That content you can just syndicate. You can use LinkedIn sponsored content ads, sponsored newsfeed ads. You can also use messaging to get the word out as well. You can also use a different mix and get creative. You can do events, you can do webinars to educate your market on this topic, but use that to warm up your SDR's outreach so that when your SDR is reaching out, instead of the prospect saying, who are you guys, or having zero brand awareness, they'll be like, oh yeah, hey, I've heard of you guys before. And you'll start to notice that more prospects will have a familiarity with their brand when they're getting in contact with your sales team, right? So by syncing what you're doing in marketing and who you're marketing to with who your sales team is proactively reaching out to, you can sort of seed the field, if you will, and some folks will call it air cover, what have you, but you can create this level of awareness that makes it easier for your sales team to get the job done and carried to the finish line. One other thing you can do with this is run campaigns to close what we call engaged non-converters on a meeting demo. So engaged non-converters are people who have previously engaged with maybe it's your marketing content, maybe they're in your CRM, maybe they've downloaded an ebook or a white paper, but they haven't converted into a meeting or a demo, right? Or maybe they've even just engaged with some of your ads. Maybe they clicked your content, visited your website. You can use those audiences to basically retarget to them and say, hey, you've engaged with us, you know the value of XYZ solution. Let's talk and see how we can help, right? So once you have this sales list sync up set up, you can add this additional layer to then proactively move your prospects further down the funnel to the point where they're talking to a sales team and provide that level of support to sales as well. So that is the sales list sync up. Josh, you're a little choppy.
How about now?
Much better.
All right. The important thing is to communicate to sales what the content you're putting out there, that persuasive content says, and what pain points it attacks, so that if and when they do get in touch with a customer that's on that synced up list, they're saying the same thing that prospect has already read and not rehashing an entire series of questions as if that person had never been exposed to you before.
Yep, that's a great point. Yeah, make sure your sales team is aware of the content you're putting out on their behalf, so that when you talk to a prospect, there's not like what content are you talking about? Make sure you're synced with them on what you're putting in the market for sure. Great point. Number 3, team travelers. So this is a personal favorite of mine. I probably generated 7, if not 8 figures of pipeline for my current company, WebMechanix, just based on this one technique alone, right? So you have happy customers. Your happy customers are not going to stay in the same job forever. Ultimately, they're going to change jobs. They're going to land somewhere else. The question is, where do they land? Where did they land, right? If you can identify those happy customers and rebuild that relationship, that's a much easier sale to make. Someone who's already used your product and is already happy with your service than someone who's never heard of you before, and you're cold calling them out of the blue. So how do we do that? How do we tactically identify these people at scale? You can certainly do it on a one-to-one basis if you have account managers or relationship managers, and task them with keeping in touch with their clients as they move to new roles or positions. But as a marketer, one way you can empower yourself to make sure this is happening at scale is use tools like LinkedIn Sales Navigator, or there's also a tool called User Gems. That's a paid tool. Well, they're both paid, but a little bit more expensive tool that does this. To identify who, if you make a list of your current customers, right? And then there's a filter in Sales Navigator where you can say previous company equals, customer name, right? So you can put all your current customers into that field under previous company. And then you can use filters to filter by job title and things like that to get the exact type of persona that you're looking to connect with. You can get a very refined list of people who used to work with your company or with your client's company, and then left to another opportunity, right? And that's your hot list of team travelers. So what you can do with that is essentially, you can send it to your sales team on the one-to-one level. One great thing to do is just send them a congratulations note. Say, hey, congratulations on the new position. Love the work that we did together at XYZ company. Would love to catch up, hear what's new with you, and see if our solution might be a fit, right? And they'll probably say yes, because if they enjoyed using your solution and it was a great experience, then it would kind of be a no-brainer for them to bring you on the new company if it makes sense in context, right? And the other thing you can do with this list of team travelers that you built through Sales Navigator, you can enrich it using tools like ZoomInfo and Sales Intel, is also to build a list and run ads and emails to them, right? Consider that another cohort of people that you can then nurture, right? Those people that, you already have that existing relationship with, and you can message them a little bit differently, right? You can message them assuming they're already aware of your product and solution and the, how it solves their issues. Basically continue to educate and continue to excite them about the opportunity, right? And of course, go for the close, go for the meeting, get them in touch with your sales team. So team travelers, a huge opportunity if you're not doing it already, to pick up a lot of low-hanging fruit. It's been a huge driver of our pipeline. Highly recommend doing this, if you're not already.
If you're looking for you don't want to pay for Sales Navigator, User Gems, you're looking for a free option that's not as sophisticated, but it's free. LinkedIn now, if you go to your network tab on LinkedIn, has a beta line on the left-hand side or on your mobile device. It's up at the top for recent job changes. And it'll show any first-party connections that you have that have recently changed jobs. So if you are connected to your customer base, that will not necessarily update you, but if you check it once or twice a week, you'll get a sense of if somebody moved and where they moved to, and you can hop on it that way too.
Yep, that's a great point. And if you do have Sales Navigator, there's also a change jobs in the last 90 days filter. It's under spotlights. And there might not be team travelers in there, but you can also this is also a tactic I don't think I mentioned this list here, but you can find folks who just switched jobs. Perfect time. They're making buying decisions, right? If you sell to CMOs and it's day 31, they've gotten acclimated to their role. Okay, now they're going to start making decisions on what vendors to hire, fire, et cetera. So perfect time to reach out and broach a conversation with, hey, notice you're new in your role. Here's what we do. Let's chat. Ooh, number 4, the secret club play. So are your customers part of a secret club, right? In other words, is there something that they all have in common, where there's a shared language that they all speak that only they speak, right? So some examples of this would be, are they part of the same private equity firm? Are they owned by the same private equity firm? Are they funded by the same venture capital firm, right? Maybe they share a lingo that's associated or a set of processes that are associated with those firms, right? Are they part of some online community? So examples of this in the B2B world might be things like Pavilion, Peak Community, RevGenius. Are they part of that particular community, right? Are they part of a trade organization or association, right? Are they all members of this association, right? The key is to find that commonality, right? And the important thing about the commonality is that they would all self-identify as being that in some way, right? So if I self-identify as being part of this private equity firm's portfolio, then that's something that I would respond to, and that would resonate with me, right? And then you want to build that list accordingly, right? And with that, you can, once you have that list, when you run ads emails to that audience, you want to call out their membership, right? So, hey, XYZ community members, right? Hey, trade association members, right? And you want to speak their language, right? So maybe they have a certain way they talk about the challenges that you solve, right? Maybe if you sell an accounting software, maybe the industry you're selling into talks about accounting and the way they do accounting slightly differently from other industries. Like SaaS is a great example of that, right? So as you're creating your messaging for your emails and ads, really think about like what is the language you're speaking and try to speak in that language, right? So that there's instant credibility in that, right? Because you're now part of their secret club because you understand the codes and lingo that they use. Now, well, this has worked very well for us, I should say. We've used this a number of times and it's generated what, 6-7 figures of revenue probably, just by really focusing on our messaging on those secret clubs that we have an association with, and really building on top of that. A next level play you can use with this is to actually partner with that secret club, right? So partner with that VC firm, partner with that online community, and even create them a landing page, right? To basically say how we support members of this club or this community or this secret group, right? And then that community can then have a resource that's an asset for them that they can distribute to members of their community, right? So they can look good to their community by offering you guys and your company and the unique solutions you provide. And of course, you benefit from that in the end as well. So lots of things you can do with this play. It's very, very powerful. Highly recommend thinking about what are those secret clubs that our customers are in and infiltrating them. Number 5, incentivized gift cards. So this is a semi-controversial one. I've heard mixed opinions on this tactic. So the idea, some people have said, if you send me a gift card, it's like a timeshare. And some people are like, you know what? Send me money, send me $100 and I get to learn about a company. Sure, why not? Our experience, it does work, but it's important to test it, right? And it's also important to watch the down funnel results closely. Because reality is you will have people that will sign up for the incentive and not really have an intention to go through. But our perspective on it is that you at least get to make that impression, right? So instead of someone just downloading an ebook that they won't open or won't read, you get this opportunity to just talk to a customer, learn about what's going on in their world, potential customer, learn what's going on in their world, educate them. And, if something comes of that, great. But if not, at least you made the connection and you made that inroad that you can leverage into a further relationship down the road, right? So there is upside to at least having the conversation, but you do want to be mindful that there is that incentive, impact of the nature of incentives going on there. So a couple important notes to make this work. You want to make the incentive compelling to the prospect. So don't offer them $20. Don't offer them like $5 to come on a call with you. They're not going to do that. Think about what their time is worth, right? So if I'm calling on a busy executive VP, my time is probably not worth $20 an hour, right? So you want to make the incentive attractive enough that's like, you know what, it's worth my time to actually get on this call and have this conversation, right? You want to use a tool like Ribbon or Tango Card for the cards. So there are lots of tools like this, but essentially they facilitate the process of sending gift cards. And they'll make your life 1,000 times easier versus having to go down to your local Walmart and ship them off, which I wouldn't recommend. So what you want to then do is once you have sort of the infrastructure set up here, is you want to run ads with specific messaging to key lists via sponsored content message ads, right? And you want to use lead gen forms, right? So these are the forms that are native to LinkedIn. We found this works best because it's very easy for that individual to just fill out the form. They don't really have to do a whole lot of additional work. They don't have to go to a separate landing page, separate experience where they can get lost or confused. Have them fill out that form. And then immediately once they fill out the form, what you can do in the form is redirect them to a booking tool. So like Chili Piper, for example, to have them book the call right then and there. So you want to shorten that time from when you offer the incentive to when they accept the incentive to actually booking the call. If they can do it right then and there, they just have to go to one more page and pick a time. That's perfect. That's ideal, right? And they'll land on the sales rep's calendar and everything will be great, hunky-dory. The other thing I would suggest is a certain percentage of those folks won't book for whatever reason. They'll fill out the form. Maybe they don't notice that they can go to the next page and actually book their meeting. So you want to have workflows in place in HubSpot or Marketo, whatever your CRM is, to immediately alert your sales reps to follow up. Like if this lead doesn't book within 5 minutes, minute 6, your sales rep is reaching out and saying, hey, saw you reached out, let's talk. Just to make sure that you close the loop and get those meetings booked. As many of them as possible, that many of the leads you generate, convert them into opportunities. And yeah, it's been pretty effective. We've seen some success with it. Obviously, there are, again, some folks that just want the gift card, but ultimately, if you do the math and it works out from a per opportunity standpoint, if your cost to acquire a customer, you still gain a customer for what you're paying between the ads and the incentives, then it makes a lot of sense. Number 6, throw a partner party. So we love partnerships at WebMechanix. We have been deepening partnerships, our strategy with partnerships this year. And one of the great things you can do with a partner is throw a get together, right? Do an exclusive event with a partner. It can be virtual, it can be in person. But the idea is to basically get people involved, get people together, right? Get your clients, your prospects, their clients, their prospects engaged in some capacity that's more than just, emails and non-personal touches, right? So tactically, how you can do this, there's a tool called Crossbeam. Now, the basic functionality is free. For our purposes, it works great. There's a much more expensive version if you're looking to build a serious partnership program, which you probably don't need if you're just getting started. So you can just get the free version. And what you can do is you can use this to sync up with your partners, basically sync up your lists. So you can sync up your customers, your opportunities, and your prospects. And you can identify mutually desired opportunities and accounts, right? So basically you get the sync going through Crossbeam, and then you sit down with your partner and you say, okay, who do we want to invite to this event from your pocket of customers and our pocket of customers, right? And then to get the event, make the event happen, there are a lot of services you can use to basically concierge the whole thing. So there are service tools like Sendoso or Postal that have, as part of their offerings, these virtual events that you can do. So they'll have charcuterie events, they'll have wine tasting events where they'll ship everything to the attendee's house, and all they have to do is just sign for it, and then they just show up to the event, right? So you can create some really nice kind of intimate events, and they'll have like a sommelier if it's a wine tasting event, it's kind of co-host it, right? But the idea is like get them to something that's more than just like, hey, come see a webinar. It's, yeah, there's going to be business talk, and we're going to talk about some ideas for you're going to talk about some ideas for your customers, but you're also going to let them have fun and mingle and get to know each other, right? And you start to build this relationship that makes them excited about you and makes them excited about your partner, right? And of course, they'll get to meet your customers. You'll invite the customers they want, your partner wants to meet, and vice versa, right? So you'll have this like mingling of your customers, their customers, and the whole idea of how you run the event is to first and foremost make it fun, right? Make it exciting and event that you would want to go back to for a second time, right? But also deliver relevant ideas. So you want to have a program where you deliver relevant ideas that are relevant to both your partner and yourself, and sort of the how they both tie in there. So for example, if you're a CRM implementation company and work with Salesforce, that's a very example, right? You can talk about, the new technologies or new opportunities within Salesforce and what's new there. And you could also talk about how to implement those and the benefits you can see from that, right? So you kind of have both parties chiming in and creating this kind of joint piece of content. And ultimately, you want to deliver the warm and fuzzies and follow up on the back end of that to secure meetings, right? So you want to see like, how are different people engaging? What questions are they asking? And then your sales reps can go and say, hey, you asked the question on the wine tasting event about XYZ. Would love to chat about that with you, right? So leverage this to, create these really sort of ideally intimate events that can create a lot of quality experience for your customers and your partners' customers, and a lot of shared pipeline as a result of that. Number 7, personalized gifting. So most gifting involves things like swag, tchotchkes, forget about all that. If you really want to engage a prospect and ideally ultimately book a meeting with them, give them something that they care about, right? Give them something that, you know, is relevant to them, is personal to them, and that would actually feel thoughtful, right? So the best way to do this is, frankly, to spy on them. Now, we make this very easy. We make it very easy to spy on ourselves these days because we have public Facebook accounts, Twitter accounts, LinkedIn accounts. Not everyone's going to have this. Some will be more engaged on social media than others. Another way you can figure out what users or what your prospects are interested in is just Googling them, right? They may have done an interview, there may be an article about them, and you can find those sources and dig up really interesting nuggets and insights about the executive that you're looking to reach, right? So once you have a hypothesis of like, hey, if I think this is something that would be really meaningful to this prospect, this type of thing or this type of offer would really resonate with them, right? You can do 2 things. First thing you can do is you can pick it out and send it manually. I've done this myself many a time. You go on Amazon or you go to the store or wherever, you find that perfect gift, and then you box it up and you ship it off at USPS. Or there are services like Sendoso and Postal that can do this for you, right? So they have a curated selection of different items that you can pick out, and you can find something that resonates with what's relevant to that prospect and send something that's relevant to them based on that selection, right? So you get a lot more ease of use with a tool like that, and you're able to move a lot faster. The downside is maybe it's a little bit less personalized, and obviously there's a cost associated with it. So when you send this, ideally, you want to send the gift along with a personalized letter, right? Or something that, basically gives context to the gift you're sending. Like, great, thanks for the gift. Now, why am I receiving this, right? And ultimately, be honest, like, look, write a clever and thoughtful letter that ties in what you're gifting to your product or solution as it relates to that prospect's company's current situation, right? And how you can help, right? So presumably you've done your research and you've crafted a message that's thoughtful, and that will actually make them say, okay, yeah, this meeting actually makes sense to take. Or someone on my team, worst case scenario, right? Little tip, if you want to get them to take the actions proactively versus having your sales rep just follow up, which they should anyway, you can add a QR code that when scanned links to your booking page in Chili Piper or wherever you have it. And yeah, you might get some inbound meetings from your gifting that way, right? So that's a little tip to kind of accelerate the process a little bit. There's also a last tip here. There's a service called Alyce, A-L-Y-C-E, and they're kind of like Sendoso and Postal, but what they do is a little bit unique in that they have a research engine that'll actually study the prospect. So if you enter in XYZ CEO, they'll go and their machine algorithm, magic, whatever, will go and scour their LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, everything about them on the web, and pick out personalized gifts that are relevant based on that data, right? So they'll do a lot of the homework for you and handle the gifting as well. So it's a pretty cool tool. I haven't used it candidly. I've got a demo of it and was pretty impressed. I know it is pretty expensive as tools are. So that's a consideration as well. But if you're really wanting to jumpstart the process, that might be or accelerate the process, that might be a tool to look into. Number 8, customer winback. Well, this is another huge one. So we've all lost clients, or we've pitched deals and lost them, or they just stalled and went to oblivion for some reason. And those are all still relationships that we have, right? And especially those customers that have already purchased from you. Well, who's most likely to buy something from you? Probably someone who's already bought something from you, right? And even if they haven't taken the leap or they didn't sign that contract, at least they have a level of familiarity with you about your brand and who you are and what you do. That's far further down the funnel than someone who's way up here and is cold, has never heard of your company before, or maybe even the problem you solve. So those clients that churned, or those deals you lost 6 months ago, their contracts are coming up for renewal, right? So if you can keep track of like, hey, we talked to this company 6 months ago, or maybe we lost this company 6 months ago, maybe they churned, went to a competitor, right? But we know that month 12, their contract is coming up and they're going to have a reconsideration period. That's your window of opportunity to reach back out, right? So how do you reach back out to previous customers or deals you lost, and rebuild that relationship and potentially win it back? I'd like to give credit to Steve Richard. He is a serial entrepreneur. He founded multiple companies in the sales space and sales tech space, and he's just sales genius. If you haven't heard of him, highly recommend following him on LinkedIn. But he has this concept he calls the ex-significant other approach, right? So your ex-significant other, you had a relationship and things were going great, then for whatever reason, split skis, right? So how do you follow up with your ex-significant other? Well, you start by saying, hey, it's been a long time. How have you been? I know last week we spoke, we were talking about doing XYZ, but for whatever reason, things just didn't work out, right? For whatever reason, just didn't work out. A lot has changed since we last spoke, right? So a lot has changed for us, right? Specifically, we've added XYZ capabilities, changed our market position to XYZ, added XYZ customers, had these wins for clients similar to you, right? Whatever that story is that is going to be relevant to that person, that gives them a reason to reconnect and rekindle the conversation, right? Final part of the script is, I'm sure a lot's changed with you too. Would love to catch up and share what's new, learn what's new with you, and at least put some ideas in your back pocket for later. Are you open to connecting, right? So give that script to your sales folks, or maybe in some cases, you'll do it via your marketing automation system if it makes sense, to reach out via email, but also run ads to get them back on your radar, right? So just like with the other cohorts we mentioned, create an audience for them that you can send them messaging, send them content that's based on what's relevant to them, what's going on in their organization that relates to your product or service. Create that sort of groundswell to bring them back into the fold, right? So this is another huge one. Your relationships are probably your closest path to gold in terms of rebuilding your pipeline. And just because they didn't go with you or just because they left you doesn't mean they won't come back. So huge opportunity here. Highly recommend building a customer win-back list and working it in 2023. Number 9, in pipeline prospects. So now we're getting into opportunities that we currently have, but we want to make sure those opportunities land, right? Because ultimately, we're looking at drive revenue. So if we want to boost our close rates and shorten our sales cycles, we want to make sure that we're nurturing our in-pipeline prospects. So these are the prospects that are actively in a selling conversation, all the way from just having that initial discovery call to contract phase, maybe even to the legal and procurement line, right? We want to make sure that we're reinforcing that we're the right option for them, right? So the way you do this, easy thing to do is sync your deals from HubSpot, your opportunities from Salesforce to LinkedIn ads. And then you want to ideally target your customer job titles and or functions, right? So you can create a matched audience based off of the actual individual emails, but if the match rate is low or there's just not enough of them, it might not be an audience you can really run much to. Whereas if you just sync your deals, you can dynamicize it, right? So any company that becomes a deal at any time, you can just have this dynamic list that's continually rotating in with new deals and opportunities, right? New accounts. And then if you segment by job titles or functions, you can at least get down to, if you sell to marketing, for example, you can target function equals marketing. Or if you know that there are certain titles in every single sale, you can just narrow it down to those, right? The limiter, for example, on LinkedIn is that you have to have an audience size of 300 or more. So definitely keep that in mind as you're building these out. But this is a great way to really narrow in your messaging, not just on the whole company, like some intern might not really care about your product or solution, but really focusing on the decision committee as much as possible. And then the ads that you run should reinforce why they should choose you versus the competition, right? What are the things that differentiate you as a company? That, what are the reasons that your prospects ultimately choose you and become customers versus your competitors, right? These are the things that you want to be reinforcing in these ads and in this messaging, right? So this is a powerful way to provide air cover to your sales team. One nuanced thing I will say, this is a very micro tactical thing. Watch your audience sizes. So for example, if you have an audience size average around 5,000, just for random example, and then you add Amazon into the pipeline, for example, it could skyrocket to 50,000, right? So in those instances, you might want to peel out a separate campaign. So you might want to exclude those sort of larger whale accounts and peel out a separate campaign just to target those tier 1 accounts individually. But that's just something to keep in mind as you're managing this. But yeah, overall, this is a great way to accelerate your pipeline, shorten your sales cycles, potentially improve your deal sizes as well, and create net new revenue nirvana. All right, last one, then we can move to some Q&A. Number 10 is your customers. So same process as before, but the reason we want to reach our customers is because our customers can bring us more customers, right? Huge opportunity. They're already using us. Presumably, they're already happy with us to some extent. We already have the relationship. And there's all kinds of things we can do to deepen that relationship and build that relationship, but also leverage that relationship into net new opportunities. So again, add your list to LinkedIn, or educate them on other products or services you're not using. That's the key, right? Is you first want to think about account expansion. What are our current customers generally using today? And in terms of our suite of products or services, and what might they not be aware of, or maybe they don't know that we also do XYZ, right? Which would be a benefit to them. That's some of the content you want to be mixing in to help them understand, oh, we don't just do this thing over here, we do all these other things that you're not taking advantage of, right? And as part of that, you can also educate them on how they sort of move up the curve with you, right? So, okay, you guys are here today, we want to get you up to here in terms of your efficiency, performance, whatever value your product or service brings. Here are the stepping stones that we use to do that, so that they then understand the journey of, okay, how do I work with this company, not just in the short term with this one specific solution, but over the long term, how do I grow and build the value that I'm deriving from working with this company, right? So that's one thing, is leveraging your customer list as a tool for account expansion. The other is asking them or even incentivizing them to provide referrals, right? So you can do this via email. You can certainly just broadcast message like, our best customers are the ones that are recommended to us, whatever messaging you want to use there. You can even create incentive programs, right? If you want to, give customers a discount or whatever that looks like in exchange for referrals. If they can get, a chunk off their bill in exchange for recommending other customers, if they're presumably happy with the work you're doing or the product you provide, they would be more than happy to do that. So that's a huge opportunity to leverage that great relationship you already have and catapult it into a net new relationship. You can even build on that and start a customer evangelist program, right? Where essentially you create a community of customers that have been using your product and seeing success with it. And then you can reward and incentivize engagement if you want to too, right? So there are all sorts of creative things you can do to get your customers not only more engaged, but also get them more connected with each other, right? And once you have a set of customers and users that are learning from each other and growing with each other, they're now part of a community. And that's pretty sticky. And that makes that to be a lot more sticky sometimes in terms of the emotional attachment than just having a product that you use to solve XYZ thing, right? So yeah, that is 10 tactical ABM tips that you guys can take and run with today. I would highly recommend pick one that resonates with you. That's like, if you heard something today that was like, oh, you know, team travelers, like, why are we not doing that? Just go do it. You know, grab a Sales Navigator account, do the free version that Josh recommended if you want to, and jump in and roll up your sleeves and start doing it. You'll be amazed at, you know, what you can accomplish if you put some dedicated effort towards just one or two of these over the next 60 to 90 days, and how that'll reflect in your pipeline. So I'll stop there and field any questions that you guys have. And Josh, any closing thoughts or feedback from you as well?
It's nothing revolutionary, but based on what I said earlier, the thing that most marketers, to no real fault of their own devices, forget when it comes to ABM is the involvement of sales alongside you. And regardless of which of these 10 things you like and which one you want to go after, if sales has to do anything with the leads that your ABM generates, they have to also be informed of what you put out in front of those accounts so that they can feel like they've landed softly. The salesperson they're talking to already knows what their questions are going to be and what their situation may be. Too often we do a really good concerted ABM effort to send awesome content in front of a prospect, and they talk to a salesperson who has no idea who they are, what they saw, and they ask them all the same usual band questions, and this person's left wondering how that didn't connect. So yeah, as you're thinking about it, especially if you find something that resonates, even just pick a single salesperson and say, hey, I'm going to send all these to you so that we can do a quick feedback loop. It won't get too distributed amongst the department, but really make sure they know how they should handle the specific leads from those account activities.
Yeah, that's huge, Josh. I mean, if your sales team isn't in the loop, even if you're doing the best work and generating the most amazing leads, like if they aren't prepared to handle them, or if they don't know that they're coming, you know, there's a lot of fumbling and ball dropping that can go on in the process, right? And it just, again, that's another situation. We could do a whole thing on marketing sales alignment and how it can become a game of he said, she said. If you don't have these upfront agreements and have this clear mutual understanding of, you know, what's required from each team and what's going on, you know, from in each team's court, right?
Mm-hmm.
You know, if that cross communication is not happening, then, you know, things are going to fall through the cracks, right? So a huge point, Josh, I agree. Like having that communication with your sales team is critical. You know, and that needs to happen, frankly, at the executive level. Like it has to be you know, everybody from the executive level on down has to have that level of alignment between marketing and sales. Can't emphasize that enough. Any other questions or thoughts before we wrap? All right, thank you guys. Well, yeah, great session as always. Just two final thoughts. First of all, thank you guys for joining. Really enjoy sharing this content with you guys. If you like it, we release the recordings usually 1 to 2 days after. Feel free to give it a like on LinkedIn, or I'm sorry, it'll be shared on LinkedIn, but feel free to give it a like on YouTube, leave a comment. Would love to hear your thoughts and opinions there. And then we will be doing our next session next month, topic TBD, where we'll be dropping another actionable set of tips for you guys to go ahead and crush it on your pipeline goals in 2023. So without further ado, thank you guys so much. I really enjoyed having you guys on. Stay warm, stay safe, and we will see you on the next one.